Hello and welcome to BQ Prime. Auto companies are coming out with their sales data today for the month of September. Joining us today is Shashank Srivastava, the Senior Executive Officer of Marketing and Sales at Maruti Suzuki. So first of all, my question is to you that previous month we saw a peak climb from the auto industry. Do you think that this month is going to be a repeat of that performance?
You're talking of September or you're talking of October? Because we now have the September numbers already.
Yeah, I was talking about August because we saw the sales number was created a record at that month. So I was expecting whether the month of September is showing the similar performance from the auto industry.
Yeah. Yes. Actually, September month, the numbers are more or less known now. We looking at wholesale of about 363,733, which is a growth of about 2.4% over last year's figure of 353. Now, this is the highest ever September, of course, but is also the highest ever monthly sales in if you look at wholesale criteria ever in any month in any year in the passenger vehicle history of our country. So it's been a great absolute numbers in terms of volumes for the industry in this September. Also, if you look at the quarter figure for the industry also exceeding 1 million, actually what 10,76,000. This is also the highest ever quarter of any quarter for the industry. And by the way, H1 figure across the 2 million mark. This is also the highest ever half-yearly sale that we have seen in excess of 20,70,000. That's crossing the 2 million mark. And that's not enough. That's not all, Vinay. If you look at the calendar year, which is Jan to September, the figure for the industry has crossed the 3 million mark. It's now 30.9 lakh January to September. And that's also great because the first time the 3 million mark has been reached in the first 9 months. Also, remember that in this period, Jan to September, we have seen the Jan has been the best ever Jan, February, the best ever February, the best ever March, the best ever April, the best ever May, the best ever June, the best ever July, the best ever August, and the best ever September. So these are some stunning numbers, of course. And I think we can look at the ending the year with around that 4 million plus mark.
Okay, so the natural questions comes from there that because we have seen 2 consecutive months of highest ever monthly sales, do you expect that performance or the performance in October to surpass that performance?
I'm not sure, but I think it will be clear in a few months' time. For the just for information, the first half of October is rather inauspicious. We have the Shraddh, what is known as the Pitru Paksh in many parts of the country, especially the central, north, and the western part of the country. The sales get badly affected as far as retail is concerned. However, we would still see good wholesale numbers, probably because dealers would be building in stock for the period immediately after the Shraddh period, which starts from 14th of October. That's the Navratra period. And that's very auspicious for the western, eastern, north, and central part of our country. So, but remember, Vinay, the stock levels are around 330,000. Is the first time in the last 5 years we have seen this level of stocks. So I think it from a wholesale perspective, it is it's not yet clear that October would be higher than September.
Last time we spoke, you flagged 2 concerns related to inflation, and then there was this concern regarding monsoon being below than normal. So, what's your assessment of how this risks have fared for the auto industry in the month of September?
Yeah, so I think a little bit of concern fading away on the monsoon front. On the monsoon front, the figures were out a couple of days back for the entire September period till I think 29th of September. And it shows a minus 5.7 or minus 5.6% as far as the long-term average for the monsoon is concerned. That's not much. Especially when you look at the Kharif sowing has been actually 1.3% in terms of acreage above last year. And therefore, it does take away a little bit of that caution factor on that front. However, if you look at the Kharif sowing for the pulses and the oilseeds, that's on the lesser side. And that means that you could see food inflation persisting. And there is a new threat which built up last month, which was the oil prices, because the oil prices climbed substantially in the last 30 days, the Brent touching $92 today. So the inflation front still looks a little bit iffy. And if that results in enhanced level of inflation for an extended period of time, you could see the central bank increasing the interest rates, which would translate into higher retail financing rates, and 80% of our industry sales are retail financing. So those factor of interest rates still continues to be sort of a question mark.
So your sales have also come out, and it showed that the mini and compact sales were down almost 30%. But my question was that because you have already flagged that there might be some challenges over there, but do you think that this fall that we have seen in this month, is it on the expected lines, or do you think that this is higher than expected?
Yeah, so coming to the Maruti numbers, actually, Maruti numbers for September were up about 2%, 150,800. Good figures. In fact, the highest ever quarter for us this Q2 has been 459,000. H1, actually, we crossed the 1 million mark. If you look at the export and the commercial vehicle for Maruti Suzuki, is the first time Maruti has crossed the 1 million mark in 1 half of the year. So that's been pretty good going. In fact, first time and the highest ever. We became the #1 manufacturer of SUV in this period. So things have been pretty good. And now talking about small cars, the wholesale front, of course, as you said, showed a negative for two reasons. One, we are modulating the production now because we are now capable. We have, because of the semiconductor crisis fading away, we have seen much better production from July for other models. As a result, we have been able to modulate the production of the smaller cars. So that modulation has happened, and retail figures are, of course, much better. The other factor is, of course, last year we had the Alto 800. We sold almost 14,000 of them last year. That base exists, but there is no Alto 800 this year. So that 14,000 numbers actually goes straight away from the wholesale kitty.
Understood. So there was this question related to your target of achieving 50% market share in the overall auto industry. So do you think that because you have launched whatever vehicles you wanted to launch in the segment in the short term, I guess there are no more launches lined up in the segment in the short or near term ahead. So do you think that that 50% market share target, will you be able to achieve it by the financial year ending FY24?
No, I think by financial year ending anyway was not our target to reach 50%. It was like a medium-term target, which means that 2-3 years is the period we are looking at. This year, because in the non-SUV sector, we have a market share of 65% or so. And this year it's expected that the SUV segment will be 50% of the market. So if we get 65% from the 50% of the market, that's about 33% market share. And we need to get the 17% from the balance 50, which is like getting a 36% market share in the SUV segment. Currently, we are at 24.5% in the SUV segment. So I think it looks a little tough to reach that 36% market share in the SUV segment, which is so essential to reach that 50% target.
Sure. I wanted to do on hybrid vehicles as well. What is the current penetration of hybrid vehicles in the overall market, and where do you see it progressing? Because we have seen that this is the area where automakers are now focusing, because particularly Maruti Suzuki, because that seems the area of growth now for the company as well.
Absolutely. So we have two vehicles which we have introduced with the hybrid. One is the Invicto, and the other is the Grand Vitara. Grand Vitara, of course, has been doing very well. Invicto also, in terms of bookings, doing very well, but supply is a constraint there. The penetration of hybrids in the industry has been going up. It's now around 1.6 to 1.7% compared with the EV, which is at around 2.3, 2.4%. So you would have seen that the hybrid penetration has actually gone up. The growth in hybrid vehicles has been actually almost more than 1,000%. So which is like a huge increase over last year. And we do believe that going forward, till the time EVs become mainstream, which would happen in a long time, I would say, in our country, hybrids are a great way to get to meeting our emission targets. So we will consider introducing hybrids in other models, but we are at the moment focusing on how the customer response is in these two models where we have launched the hybrid.
And then what is the expected where this penetration will go?
In fact, for example, for the Vitara itself, the sale is almost 22-23% is hybrid. In Victo, it is 100% because we have only the hybrid there. But when you consider our base, obviously the base includes all other models where we do not have hybrids. So obviously the penetration is going to be. But if you look at specifically Vitara, the penetration is about 22-23%.
Okay. Thank you so much. That was my last question to you. Thank you so much for speaking to BQ Prime.
Thank you, Vinay. Thank you very much.